Have you ever wondered what ignited the fuse of the First World War, one of the most devastating conflicts in human history? It's a question that's gripped historians and enthusiasts for over a century, and for good reason. The First World War was a turning point, a cataclysmic event that forever changed the course of the 20th century. It redefined national boundaries, transformed global politics, and left an indelible mark on societies around the world. Understanding the origins of this war isn't just a matter of historical curiosity. It's about recognizing the patterns and pressures that can lead to conflict and the potential consequences of those conflicts. It's about learning from our past to better navigate our future. So let's embark on a journey back to the early 20th century to unfold the sequences leading to the outbreak of the First World War. The stage for the war was set in Europe, often referred to as the powder keg of Europe. The term powder keg symbolizes a volatile situation where the slightest trigger could lead to an explosion, in this case, a full-blown war. Europe, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, was just that. A simmering pot of intense nationalism and a complex web of alliances that had the potential to erupt at any moment. This intricate network of alliances, which promised mutual support in the event of conflict, was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it was designed to maintain a balance of power, but on the other, it also meant that a conflict involving just two nations could quickly escalate into a continental or even a global war. At the heart of this web were two prominent alliances. The Triple Alliance, formed in 1882, consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. They pledged to aid each other in the event of an attack by France. In response, France sought allies to counterbalance this threat. This led to the formation of the Triple Entente in 1907, comprising France, Russia, and Britain. The Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871 was a significant factor in this growing tension. The war ended with the defeat of France and the unification of Germany. The newly formed German Empire was a dominant force in Europe, both economically and militarily. This was a source of unease for the other European powers, particularly France, which was still smarting from the loss of the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine to Germany. Moreover, the sense of nationalism was on the rise. Each country felt a strong sense of pride and loyalty towards their nation. This nationalism led to a desire for territorial expansion and superiority over other nations, further adding fuel to the fire. These alliances, combined with the fierce nationalism, created a tense atmosphere, a powder keg waiting for a spark. And the spark came in the form of an assassination. Picture this, a sunny day in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, on the 28th of June, 1914. Amid the cheerful crowds, a royal procession was making its way through the city. The central figures were Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie. Little did they know this would be their last public appearance. Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb, was among the onlookers that day, but unlike the others, he wasn't there to celebrate. He was there with a mission to end the life of the Archduke. As the motorcade passed, Princip seized his opportunity and fired his weapon. The royal couple was fatally wounded, marking a dark day in history. This assassination wasn't just a tragic loss of lives, it was the spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe. Austria-Hungary was outraged by the murder of their heir and his wife. They blamed Serbia for the attack, accusing them of supporting the Serbian nationalist group that Princip was part of. The grief and anger of Austria-Hungary led them to declare war against Serbia on the 28th of July, a month after the assassination. But the story doesn't end there. The European powers were interlocked in a complex system of alliances. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, it triggered a domino effect. Serbia was allied with Russia, who then mobilized against Austria-Hungary. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia. France, in turn, allied with Russia, found itself at war with Germany. And so the gears of war began to turn. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was more than just a spark. It was a catalyst that set off a chain reaction, a cascade of declarations of war, each one pulling in another country due to their alliances. The dominoes fell, one by one, and the world watched as the stage was set for a conflict of unprecedented proportions. This single event set in motion a conflict that would engulf the world. With the declaration of war, the nations of Europe were drawn into a conflict that would last for over 4 years. The nations plunged into a cataclysm, unaware of the years of suffering and destruction that lay ahead. As the war grew, it didn't just remain a European affair. The colonial powers of the time, stretching their influence across the globe, pulled their territories into the fray. From Africa to Asia, men were enlisted, and resources were drained to feed the war machine. The world map was painted with the hues of conflict, making the Great War a truly global endeavor. In the midst of this, the United States, initially a spectator, found itself being drawn into the vortex. The sinking of the passenger ship Lusitania by a German submarine and the Zimmermann telegram, a secret diplomatic communication proposing a military alliance between Germany and Mexico, were pivotal events. In April of 1917, the United States formally entered the war, marking a significant shift in the balance of power. The war was marked by key battles that would forever be etched in history. The Battle of the Somme, Verdun, and Passchendaele, to name a few, were theaters of unprecedented violence and loss. These battles, among others, were characterized by the extensive use of trench warfare. Soldiers lived, fought, and often died in these muddy, rat-infested trenches, stretching for hundreds of miles across the Western Front. This was a stark departure from traditional warfare, ushering in a new, grueling kind of combat. The First World War was unlike anything the world had seen before, not only in terms of its scale and the number of nations involved, but also in the introduction of new weapons of war, such as tanks, airplanes, and poison gas. It was a war that saw the old world order crumble and a new one take its place. The First World War had begun, bringing with it a new era of warfare and a world forever changed. In the end, the First World War claimed the lives of over 16 million people and changed the face of Europe. A cascade of events led to this monumental conflict. A complex web of alliances, coupled with a surge of nationalism, created a powder keg waiting for a spark. That spark came with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, an event that pulled the trigger on a war that had been brewing beneath the surface. As the war unfolded, it left a trail of devastation and loss, painting a stark picture of the human cost of conflict. Entire generations were shaped by this war, their lives irrevocably altered by the decisions made by those in power. Remembering the First World War is not just about understanding our past, it's about learning from it to shape a better future. To avoid the mistakes of yesteryears, we must remember the lessons they taught us and strive for peace in our world today.